Victoria. Did you say hello to your teacher? It's 6:10. So then you do the announcement that it's going to cover. Shabbat Shalom. Good evening, friends. We are going to start just in a few moments. I understand that there are people that queuing on the road and trying to get the parking. So it's not our usual minhag, our usual custom to be late, but just for tonight. Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm Rabbi Stephen Fuchs. I'm here with my wife, Vicki, from Sanibel, Florida. It is our great joy to be with you and with Rabbi Margolis on this very special occasion. Whatever trouble is going on in the world, I fully subscribe this evening to the words of Psalm number 118, Zeh Hayom Asa Adonai, Nagila v'nismecha bo. This is the day which the Eternal One has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We begin and turn to page 664 with a song that expresses the universal hope that I am certain is in the heart of everyone here, that one day a tabernacle of peace will spread over all of us. Ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha. We appeal to the Eternal One, spread over us the tabernacle of your peace. It is now my pleasure to introduce the president of the congregation, Marilyn Blackhall.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. Can I be heard? I can be heard, that's great. I'd like to begin tonight by offering a warm welcome to our members who provide support for this congregation and for the preservation of our historic synagogue building. And to all our members who are on Zoom tonight, I want to welcome them. And especially honoring so many of you and so many people from our community. We're honored to have the presence of Lieutenant Governor Treganza Roach, who's here not always as an esteemed, which he is, but he's a friend. He's a friend. He has been for so many years, and we're so glad that he's here. I believe Senator Blyden was supposed to be here, but there's been a parking problem. So when he comes, somebody tell him that I've welcomed him. We're also welcoming leadership from many of the other houses of worship on our island, with whom we share a warm and meaningful relationship, and we hope to continue that and hope that it will grow. I'm going to call out the names. Some may not be here yet. There is a pretty severe parking issue that I think people were not quite aware of. So I'm going to recognize the Imam Omar Al-Kwani. This is kind of in alphabetical order. Father Marcel Guam and Father Joseph Toko of the St. Peter and Paul Cathedral, Father Israel Tabang of St. Anne's Cathedral in St. Croix, part of the Catholic Church. Reverend Genty Morose, and I know he's here, of the St. John Methodist Church and the Trinity Methodist Church, and Reverend Nalalu Morose, his wife, of the Wesleyan Methodist Church, and Pastor Merle Marone of the Frederick Evangelical Lutheran Church, and I know Pastor Jeff Neville is here of the St. Thomas Reformed Church, and Pastor Ben Rowe of the St. Thomas Reformed Church, and Reverend Carl Richardson of the Living Hope Cathedral. And I know that Corinne Van Rensselaer she's a senior layperson of the Nazareth by the Sea Episcopal Church, and the very Reverend Dean Sandai, who I know is here, Sandai Wilson, who I know is here, or is it Sandy Wilson? I'm bad with names, much better with phone numbers, of the Cathedral of All Saints. And last but not least, Rabbi Hernan Rustein of Temple Beth Shalom in San Juan, and approximately 10 of his congregants who have come to be a part of this. So we are just glorious about this relationship. Tonight, together, we are all celebrating as our new rabbi, Julia Margolis, is publicly installed in her role as rabbi of the Hebrew congregation of St. Thomas. This installation tonight is not a secular event, and it's not a ritual. It's a sacred occasion, a key moment when God's presence can fill the sanctuary, and most importantly, is a public manifestation of the rabbi and the congregation coming together, committing to serve and supporting one another. But tonight is even more significant because Rabbi Margolis is the first woman rabbi the Hebrew congregation has ever had since its inception in 1796, over 225, I think it's 227 years ago, coming to us all the way from South Africa, and we are so proud to be able to install her as such this evening. And isn't it fortuitous that I'm the one here publicly representing the congregation at the beginning of the installation? As I'm proud to say that although I serve as president once again, was drafted again, I was the first woman president in the history of this congregation, elected back in 1988. And that the women have taken over since then. No, not quite true, but we now have a presence. So this can truly be viewed as a historic evening for the Hebrew congregation of St. Thomas. Rabbi Margolis, we, the members of the Hebrew congregation, stand before you and here on Zoom, along with so many members of our community, to welcome you as our rabbi. We feel blessed to call you our rabbi and welcome you as our leader. We have come to know you during the several months that you've been here as a teacher of Torah, a leader in our worship and prayer, as a spiritual guide in all kinds of life cycle events, and with your family as an interacting member of our community throughout, and especially with other clergy, many of whom are here tonight, as we said. You have articulated a vision of dynamic, inclusive congregation, committed to Jewish values and learning. We promise to work with you to help all feel welcome and respected. We look forward to continuing the journey that we have begun together, our historic synagogue and in our community with our fellow Virgin Islanders, and to join together for justice, for peace, and a meaningful connection with God, or the Spirit that moves us. In summary, Rabbi, we are so fortunate to welcome you as our leader, and our teacher, and community supporter. We look forward to sharing our joys together. We are thirsty to learn from you, and eager to pray with you. We are hungry for your guidance and your vision. Welcome to Rabbi Margolis. Welcome to all of you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. My hearing is not so good. You said 1988. Were you president of the youth group then? I know you welcomed many, many clergy and visiting dignitaries, and I certainly second that welcome, but there is, and I cannot see who's on the Zoom, but there is one person in particular that I would like to welcome, my dear friend who also happens to be Rabbi Margolis' mother, Rabbi Yelena Rubenstein in Jerusalem. Yelena, אנחנו מתגעגעים עלייך הרבה מאוד הערב. כולנו רוצים שאת תהיי פה, אבל זהו זה. We welcome you, we miss you very much. All of us here wish you were here, but as we all know in life, there are things we cannot fully control. But we know you are with us on the Zoom and that your heart is with us as well. And speaking of your heart and Rabbi Margolis' heart, I know that they will thrill as we call to the Bima Rabbi Margolis' daughters, Victoria and Emily, and we continue our service on page 126.
I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in my prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other. To work is to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created, and to work is to perfect it. To love God is to dream and peace of joy, and illuminates all of us, and brings no vision into life.
There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do, not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace.
Amen. Great job.
Thank you.
And now it is my pleasure to invite Rabbi Margolis' right hand in the office, Stella Minion, and her husband Louis, who was chair of the search committee which brought Rabbi Margolis to us, as we turn to page 120 for the ritual of lighting and blessing our Shabbat candles.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Beautiful. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
And now we turn in our prayer book to page 138 for a very important piece of our welcoming the Sabbath. The prayer Lecha Dodi personifies the Sabbath as a bride or a queen. And Lecha Dodi means, come, my beloved, to greet the bride. And so as the bride enters, we literally stand to welcome her. So normally we sing at home verses 1, 2, and 9. And when we get to the last verse, I invite those who are able to rise, face the doorway, and together let us welcome the Shabbat Queen, the Shabbat Bride, into our midst. Page 138.
Hashem echad
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Please be seated. And it's really a privilege to see so many familiar faces and friends and people that became family. And I'm really grateful. We are on page 144. Would you please rise as we are reciting Chatzi Kaddish? התגדל והתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברך יוטה וימליך מלכותה בחייכון יומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בהגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה יתברך יתברך והשתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו Amen. And we continue on page 146. Please be seated. Thank you. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. And praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever. We do have space here, and come join us. As we continue on our journey with this Kabbalat Shabbat service, on page 150, we have a beautiful psalm, a beautiful song about everlasting love. And I will be talking about love and relationship between God and us a little bit later. But I want that you will just read the words and listen to the beautiful music as Chanel is going to lead us in prayer on page 150 with Ahavat Olam. And join us in singing.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha Avda, Amka אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו משכבנו, ובינינו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. אוהב עמו ישראל.
Thank you. Declaration of our faith on page 152. Would you please rise as we recite the Shema?
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
On page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני Elohechem. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day, and press them upon your children, and recite them when you stay at home and when you lie down. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus shall you remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Please be seated. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter for life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. We are with Ashkivenu on page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, leHavidenu Shamareh, ulechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, leHavidenu Shamareh, ulechaim. Sometimes I lay under the moon and thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more, there'll be no more war, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, leHavidenu Shamareh, ulechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, leHavidenu Shamareh, ulechaim. It's not about win or lose, 'cause we all lose when they feed on the souls of the innocent. Blood-drenched pavement, keep on moving though the waters stay raging. And in this space, you can lose your way. It might drive you crazy, but don't let it phase you away. Because sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more, there'll be no more war, and the children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, leHavidenu Shamareh, ulechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, leHavidenu Shamareh, ulechaim.
Amen. Beautiful. Thank you so much, and thank you for singing it with us. Beautiful. Tfilat Hamidah, the standing prayer, Tfilat Hashmona Esrei, is the prayer that we recite during 3 times of the day, and it's on page 164. Would you please rise? Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. On page 168, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה כל עטריו להושיע, מחלחל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We are continuing silently until page 180. And when you're done with your prayers, then please be seated.
Say Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava תמיד עבודת ישראל. ישראל עמך קרוב לך שפוק רוחך עלינו ותחזינה עינינו לשובך לציון.
Find favor, Adonai God, with your people Israel and accept their prayers in love. May the worship of all people always be acceptable. God, who is near to all who call, turn lovingly to your servants and pour out your Spirit upon us. On page 180, it's a moment that we just take for ourselves, a moment for reflections, a moment for meditations, to think what kind of week we had, what kind of a Shabbat that we want to share. יהיו לרצון נמרפי, ויון ליבי לפניך, אדוני, צורי וגואלי. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. On the bottom of page 180, please join us.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן.
May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all those who inhabit the earth, and let us say, Amen. On page 371, we offer a prayer of healing, a prayer of Mishberach to all our loved ones that are not here as we are thinking about them. מי שברך אבותינו ואמותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה רבקה רחל ולאה. הוא יברך את כל החולים. הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא את רחמים עליהם להחלמתם, לרפאתם, וישלח להם מהרה רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, אשתא בהגילו בזמן קריב, ונאמר אמן. It's my biggest pleasure to introduce Rabbi Stephen Fuchs to continue to conduct the service.
At this time, I would like to just offer a brief prayer for the Middle East. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, eternal God, God of our mothers and our fathers, let peace return, lasting peace, Le'ir Shalom, to the city of peace, Jerusalem. May it truly live up to its name. May hostages come home safely. May children return to the bosom of their loving parents. May no one suffer. May no one live in privation. And may war give way to the sounds and songs and dances of peace. And may the day come of which the prophet Isaiah dreamed, when they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Lo yisagoyel goy Erev, velo yilmedu od milchama. Let nation not lift up sword against nation, nor ever again shall they train for war. And can we say together, Amen.
Amen.
We prepare now to read from the scroll of the Torah. We rise as the ark is opened.
Do you want the
This is our Torah. It tells the story of the beginnings of our people. It contains laws and teachings which our people have given to the entire world. As Jews, our particular task is to study Torah, understand what it says, but most importantly, use that understanding to guide our lives, the lives of our children, our grandchildren, and all of those whom we are blessed to influence. We thank God for this, our most precious gift, as once again we sing. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Eternal One is God, the Eternal One alone. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. God is holy, God's name is holy, and we sanctify the eternal name. Lecha Adonai Hagidula, Hagidula,
Shammai. Thank you.
Please be seated. Our Torah portion for this Shabbat comes from the book of Genesis. And if ever there was a Torah portion which fell not by the lottery of the weekly reading, but by divine providence for the installation of a new rabbi, I believe it is this portion. And so as you hear it and as we talk about it in a bit, I hope that you will see the connection for all of our lives. We set the scene with God saying, I've got something important to tell my covenantal partner Abraham, but I don't know if he can handle it. But I can't not tell him because he's my partner. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah are so wicked that they must be destroyed. And as you will hear, Abraham rises up in protest. And I think that protest and the ensuing discussion is a vital, vital teaching for each and every one of us. And because we all worship the same God, and because partnership is so important to Rabbi Margolis and to this congregation in its history, I would like at this time to invite any of the visiting clergy who wish to join us right here on the bima as we share this scriptural message together. For the honor of blessing the Torah, there can be no other choice than your new rabbi, Harav Abigail Bat Shimon ve'Harav Ilana. Rabbi Julia Margolis.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך,
ברוך
אדוני
אדוני
המבורך
המבורך
לעולם
לעולם
ועד.
ועד.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ותן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Adonai Amar, the Eternal One said, Habichase'ani me Avraham asher ani oseh. Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? The Avraham ayo yiyeh legoy gadol v'atzum. For Abraham is to become a great and mighty nation. V'nivrechu bo kol goyei haaretz. And through his descendants, all of the nations of the earth shall find blessing. Ki yidativ, and I have singled him out. L'ma'an asher v'tzaveh et banav ve'et beito acharav v'shamru derech Adonai, that he and his descendants after him shall keep the way of the Eternal One. La'asot tzedakah u'mishpat, to do what is just and what is right. L'ma'an avi Adonai al Avraham et asher diber alav, in order that I may bring about for Abraham what I have indicated to him. Vayomer Adonai, then the Eternal One said, Zakat Sdom v'Amorah ki rabah, v'hatatam ki kavda me'od. The outcry of the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah is so very, very great, and their sins are so grievous. Erada na ve'er'eh hakitzakata haba'a elai asu kala. I must now go down and see whether it is really as grave as it seems. V'im lo eda'ah. If not, I shall know. Ve'Avraham odena omed lifnei Adonai. But Abraham remained standing before the Eternal One. Vayigash Avraham vayomer. Abraham approached and said, Ha'af tispet tzedakah im rasha? Will you indeed sweep away the righteous along with the guilty? Ulai yesh chamishim tzadikim b'toch ha'ir. Ha'af tispeh velo tisa lamakom lama'an hamishim hatzadikim asher b'kirba. Will you not have mercy and spare the city for the sake of 50 righteous people who are there? Halila lecha me'asot kadavar hazeh. Far be it from you to do such a thing. Lahamit tzadik im rasha, to slaughter the righteous with the guilty. The hayak tzadik karasha, and to treat the righteous like the guilty. Halilalach, far be it from you. Hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh mishpat, shall not the judge of all the earth do justly? And then the discussion continues. God says, oh no, if you find me those 50, I'll spare the city. Abraham said, well, maybe they're not 50, but 45. How about 45? God says, sold for 45. Abraham says 40, 30, 20. The discussion is protracted. And finally, Abraham says, Vayomer al na yichar la'adoni va'adabera achapa'am. Let not the Eternal One be angry with me, but I'm going to ask one more thing. Ulai yimatsun sham asara. What if there are only 10? Vayomer lo ashit ba'avur ha'asara. And the Eternal One answered, if you find me even 10, I will spare the city. And by this time Abraham knew there weren't 50, there weren't 45, there weren't 40, there weren't 10. And Vayelech Adonai ka'asher kilal ledaber el Avraham. So the Eternal One left off after this very patient listening to his protest. V'Avraham shav limkomo, and Abraham returned to his place.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We rise.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני אדוני, לפני אדוני.
You're going to take this scroll.
The whole history, the whole book, now on your shoulder. No pressure at all. I'm very happy to share it. He's the boss.
We compare our Torah to a tree which gives life, not just to our people, but to all people. Its ways, if we can all learn to follow them, are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Eitz chaim hi
למחזיקים בה וטוב ביה מאושר.
דרכי
נועם
וכל נתיבותיך
שלום.
It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Amen.
Amen.
That was Rabbi Margolis. We invite you to sit right here in case it wasn't loud enough.
I think if I'm not mistaken, it's a president, right? And vice president chairs?
Tonight it's yours.
Okay.
Once, a new rabbi came to her congregation, and the synagogue bristled with excitement as she prepared to deliver her very first sermon. She got up on the pulpit, and if ever there was a smash hit from a rabbi, it was that night. Everyone was in awe, and after the service, the search committee was congratulating itself profusely for the wonderful choice they had made. The next Friday night, the rabbi got up in the pulpit and word for word delivered the exact same message. Well, there was a little bit of consternation as the president hastily convened an impromptu meeting at the reception following the worship. But they figured she's new, she may be a little nervous, we'll just let it slide. But on the next Friday night, when once again the rabbi gave the exact same sermon word for word, there was an emergency meeting of the board of directors the next day. And they called her in and they said, "Rabbi, we don't get it. You got up there on the first Shabbat and everyone was in awe. But then the next week and the week after that, you gave the exact same message, word for word. Why?" "Why?" she said. "Well, when you all do all the things I said in that first sermon, I'll be glad to give you another one." I submit to you, Rabbi Margolis isn't going to fall into that trap. But her message to you each week will have a unifying, underlying theme. That I promise you. And you heard its essence tonight. But before we get to that, there are 3 lessons that a rabbi and a congregation must absorb from that Torah portion if the covenant that they create together is to succeed. Let's take a look. The first comes in the opening line of the portion. God says, "Ha-michaseh me-Avraham et ani asher aseh." Will I hide from Abraham what I'm going to do? And of course it's a rhetorical question, and the answer is of course not. I can't. We're partners. If I go into business with you and all of a sudden you start making unilateral decisions about what we're going to do and what we're going to spend and how we're going to do it, chances are I'm not going to be happy with the relationship. And so God has to consult with Abraham. And that's lesson number 1 for rabbis, presidents, boards of directors: transparency. Do not hide from one another. Deal openly, straightforwardly, honestly, and you'll be on the road to a good relationship. If God had to consult with Abraham, then the rabbi and the leadership and the leadership and the rabbi, surely they have to consult with one another. Second, patience. Look, God knew from the get-go that Sodom and Gomorrah were going to be toast. They were beyond hope. Now, we might like to think nobody's beyond hope. I get that. But back then, that was the way it was. There weren't 50, there weren't 40, there weren't 10, there weren't any. But Abraham stands up and proves his worth as a covenantal partner. He says, I don't get it. Make me understand. You can't, you're God, and you're going to destroy the righteous along with the guilty? Far be it from you to do such a thing. Hashofet kol ha'aretz lo ya'aseh mishpat. Will not you, the judge of all the earth, do what's just, what's right? Our rabbis go a little further. Without changing a letter, that question can be a declarative statement. The judge of all the earth will not do justly, to mean strict justice, untempered by mercy, compassion, understanding, is not the way to run the world. So what do we have here? Abraham is, in effect, not just interacting with God, but instructing God. And to me, that's a major wow. A wow which teaches me we can all learn from one another. I mean, God is there beyond where I can point, and we're right down here, and God's listening. And what is that lesson? What is that lesson which Rabbi Margolis will teach with artful variations week in and week out, and different examples and different ways of expressing it, because it's not so simple. That lesson is, just as we heard tonight, our goal as a Hebrew congregation, your goal as Muslims, as Christians, is the same. Lishmor derech Adonai, to keep the way of the Eternal One. La'asot tzedakah umishpat, to do what is just and what is right. Now, we all know that people can differ on what they think is just and right. And that's why we need the patience of that negotiation, to listen to one another, to accept the fact that we're not always going to agree, but that we are all trying for the same goal. A world which, in the words of the prophet Isaiah, will be a place where lo yareu velo yashitu bechol har kodshi, they shall not hurt or destroy in all of God's holy mountain. And in the words of the prophet Micah, a world where v'yashvu ish tahat gofno v'tahat te'enato v'ein macharid, a world wherein each and every one of us will be able to sit under our vine, under our fig tree, with none to make us afraid. Amen.
Amen.
Rabbi Margolis, will you join me at the ark?
Yes.
And will you please rise? Rabbi, it has been pointed out by your president, with whom you are already forging a beautiful partnership, that you are the first woman rabbi in the history of this historic synagogue, whose history goes back to 1796. But I will tell you, you were not chosen because you were a woman. You were chosen because you are you. You have come all the way from South Africa. Your life has not always been a walk in the park or a bed of roses, but you are here. And I believe, as I said at the outset, that you are here for a very important reason. This synagogue, people may come to see the sand on the floor, but they will leave enriched by your wisdom, your spirituality, and your ardent desire to make this world a place of tzedakah umishpat, a place of righteousness and justice. It was my privilege when I served as president of the World Union for Progressive Judaism to travel to more than 65 communities around the world. And on those journeys, I can tell you, I met lots of rabbis, but none with more spirit, more heart, more compassion, and more to give to a willing congregation than you. And so now, here you are, far from Moscow, far from Jerusalem, far from Johannesburg, but you are home. And in this new home, you will have the opportunity to enrich not just the Jewish community, but the larger community as well with your spirit and your wisdom. And all of those people who will come in ships from around the world to see the sand floor, but they'll end up seeing and learning from you. And their lives will be enriched. And so it is my great joy to wish you in this new post much happiness, transparency with your leadership, patience for long conversations, but never to lose sight of that ultimate goal, Lishmor Derech Adonai, to keep the way of the Eternal One and to fill the world with righteousness and justice. May I ask God to bless you at this time in the words of our tradition. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yihuneka. May God cause the divine presence to shine upon you and to be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elayich v'yasem lach shalom. May the Eternal One lift up the divine presence upon you and grant you peace, contentment, fulfillment, shalom. And may we together all say, Amen. Please be seated.
Please be seated. Wow. Shabbat Shalom. Good evening. Friends and colleagues and distinguished guests, family, and I sincerely appreciate your presence here tonight. It means so much. And it is indeed an honor and a privilege to be formally installed as the rabbi of the Hebrew congregation of St. Thomas. And this is a moment that I have been looking forward to for a long time, and one that fills my heart with humility and excitement. And as you can imagine, ceremonies like this require months of planning, and I must acknowledge the efforts of all those special human beings that made this event possible. But the popular cliche is, life happens when you are planning. And it contains so much truth because my mother was planning to leave our home in Israel and to be here with her granddaughters and all of you, but October 7th happened. And then my thought was to postpone everything until the end of war. But then I realized that the community is what we desperately need during these troubled times. Because people of goodwill around the world are uniting around their communities. And I'm not talking only about Jewish communities, every community. They are joining forces to bring closer the victory of good over evil. And we must emphasize the importance of community for everyone on our planet, for all of us, not just some of us. And our community must function as a large family, and I think you can see it. It's a large family, and family that is compassionate, supportive, gives comfort, and embraces ideals that bring us together. My youngest daughter says, today is my coronation to the office. But it is more than a ceremony, because I regard today's event as a hymn, a sweet song of devotion to the community, an act of gratitude to the people of this island, to the friends who develop and preserve this amazing Jewish place of worship. A marriage that unites us as partners in a sacred relationship, a divine contract that gives each partner someone to rely on in good moments and in moments of sadness. A testimony to the joys and sorrow of all who were here more than 200 years ago and those who continue this life now, creating hope and building the future. And I'm always in awe of the connection between our everyday life and our weekly chapter, our weekly portion of the Torah. And as Rabbi said, our portion has many different themes. One is destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and the problem of preserving the lives of those that are righteous. But actually, because you stole half of my sermon, Rabbi, I want to talk then on something else. In the book of Genesis, in chapter 18, verse 1, the story begins how 99-year-old Abraham sat on the threshold of his tent in Mamre, and it was only a few days after his Brit Milah, his circumcision, and the conclusion of the covenant with Almighty. It can easily be assumed that Abraham is not feeling well. It's midday heat back in the land of Israel. He is after this very delicate surgery. And then suddenly in the next verse, it says, and he lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, the 3 men were standing beside him. And he saw, and he ran toward them from the entrance of the tent, and he prostrated himself to the ground. Again, note, he ran towards 3 men from the entrance of his tent, and these men were not really next to him, but in the distance, meaning that he ran towards them. And then Abraham invites this man into his house, and he tries to accommodate their needs. And again, during this time, his hospitality was really not considered something very special. because kindness and generosity were commonplace among many people. In fact, they were laws. And the important point about this story is that we must emphasize the law of hospitality, because it depends on welcoming of our guests, not to run and just invite guests who have appeared somehow in the distance, on the street. And this is what Abraham did despite his injuries, despite the middle day hit, despite his age. He was 99. And why I'm talking about all this? Because Rabbi Fuchs stole half of my sermon about righteousness of Sodom and Gomorrah, and I need to quickly make a new sermon on the spot, but also because tradition defines the main quality of forefathers of Abraham, because it's hesed, mercy. And in Russian, it means sweetheart. And in Hebrew, it means tov lev, the good heart. Mercy, charity, grace, graciousness, mercifulness. It seems that all these qualities can be applied to how we relate to each other in this house of God, in our small community here on this island, and in the larger communities around the world. It relates to the honor of being the rabbi of the Hebrew congregation. And it's not just about how community supported me and my daughters in most hardest moments of our lives. It's about the daily life of everyone who is related to this house of worship. And this house of worship is not accidentally called Bracha v'Shalom v'Gmilut Chasedim. Chesed, Chasedim, blessings, peace, and loving kindness. Our doors and our hearts must always be open to everyone with joy, with problems, with grief, because we must welcome all, just like Abraham did thousands of years ago, even though we may be having the worst day of our lives. In this most difficult time for all of us, all the special qualities of our community are fully manifested when we follow this law of hospitality. We welcome interfaith families. Our diverse community encompasses a really broad spectrum of ages, political orientation, expression of observance, because we are all connected. Because we are a synagogue that doesn't just call itself welcoming, but embraces through word and deed every person and every family that walk through its doors. We Ashkenazi and Sephardi, the Jews of color, we are married and single. We are all here because we decided, we made this choice of being here, because all of us belong to this place. And being a young rabbi, and I have to just point that in South Africa, I was only female rabbi for quite a long time. But here tonight, you have 3 South Africans and my children, 5 South Africans in one place of worship. Just take saying that we won the World Cup. Maybe we are taking over the world. And back then in South Africa, I was faced with some daunting challenges and, interesting opportunities to define who I was, who I wanted to be, what I believed in, and what I need to learn along the way. My career has expanded over the decades, where I have had the honor and privilege to oversee different associations, not only for religious equality, but equality in young girls and boys, men and women, racial bias, classism, elitism. One would think that this is no longer a problem that we would deal in 21st century, but it is still in many ways. one thing that I learned being a past chair of South African Center for Religious Equality and Diversity is that we never regret standing up for what is right, what we believe in, what is true, and what should be. And despite the cost to ourselves or the sacrifices that one needs to make, when one door closes, another one opens, and those who support you without any personal agenda are the ones who will stay with you throughout your journey. And I'm very grateful for all those who have stuck with me and supported me over the years as I journey through this life, following my true calling. And Rabbi Stephen Fuchs had very big influence on many decisions that I made in years past. And I look at faces that are here, and I realize that how many stories there are already that I share with you, how many relationships that were formed from the time that I arrived here. And I want really to express my sincere thank you to the president of this congregation, to Lou and the whole search committee, and the board that honored me to be able to stand here in front of you in this unique historical congregation. And I feel that during these 8 months, you transformed from being my employer to being not just friends, but to being my family. You know, back in March when I started my official job here, there were some people that thought that installation in November, you know, would not be ideal, since I would have been serving as the rabbi here for some time. But now that I'm standing here, I realize more and more why an early installation couldn't mean as much as it does today. And of course it would have worked. And of course it would have been the most beautiful event. But the feeling wouldn't have been there because our connection would not be the same as it is right now. Naturally, our relationship will require a great deal of time to develop as we continue around the Jewish year, around different life cycle events. During good times and, you know, during bad times. But according to Jewish custom, as we just began the new year of 5784, this is the time when our ancestors made the journey from Egypt to Mount Sinai to receive the Torah. And we are technically in the very beginning of the journey to Mount Sinai. And as we prepare for the different challenges of this journey, I'm reminded of the blessing that God gave to our ancestors when he began his journey that changed his life. When Abraham set out for the promised land, God told him, "You shall be a blessing." May we be a blessing for each other as a rabbi and as a congregation. May our journey together be rich and rewarding. May we always find moments like this to give thanks for the Judaism and for the community that embraces us all. יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוניו פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוניו פניו אליכם וישים לכם shalom. May God bless you and guard you. May the light of God shine upon you. May God be gracious to you all. And may the presence of God be with you and give you peace. May it be God's will. Ken yehi ratzon. Thank you. Shabbat shalom. Thank you. Thank you. And the reason why I did not mention everyone by name, don't worry, it will be during the dinner, it's because we would be here until a week from now. People that helped in every possible way. In South Africa, here, Jews, not Jews, teachers, educators, doctors, everyone. And the names will come just during the dinner, because one of my other teachers, Rabbi Jacob, said that you cannot put the mechitza, the barrier between Jews and the food. And right now, this is exactly what I'm doing. In order to be in good books of my congregation, we're going to conclude on page 586. Would you please rise? And I would ask Katina and Susie to open the ark for us. Rabbi. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמם, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומעטים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad. And it has been said, Adonai will be sovereign over all the earth. On that day, Adonai will be one, and God's name will be one. Amen. Would you please close the ark? Thank you. Please be seated. No. Thank you. Thank you. As we conclude this service, we think of our loved ones that cannot be here with us tonight, and those that were killed in Holocaust and in genocide all over the world, those everywhere that were killed in the war in Middle East. May their memories always be for a blessing. And if there are names that you would like to mention, then please do so. would you please rise as we are on page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חיותי וימליך מלכותי, בחי נכון וביום נכון, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יש שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי אלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, all over the world, and let us say amen. Please be seated. And just before our final song, I would like to ask our Vice President, Carol Rich, to give us some words of wisdom tonight.
Good evening, everybody. And Shabbat Shalom. What a beautiful service this has been. Thank you, Rabbi Fuchs, for coming here and being a part of this. And thanks to everyone who is here tonight for joining us for this very, very special evening. By your presence here from so many different houses of worship, from so many different parts of our community, you have made this a truly special event for us, and you've touched our hearts. And it was always our hope and desire to make this an interfaith moment with our entire community, and you all, by being here, have made that come true. So we thank you so much. I want to remind everybody who has made reservations with us that we will be having our dinner up at Lilienfeld House. Our ushers will help you find your way as soon as we're done here. And we encourage you to please sit with somebody that you don't know. Make a new friend, make a new connection, and enjoy one another. And again, I just want to say thanks to everybody, and from the bottom of my heart to welcome Rabbi Margolis. I was a part of the search committee. I had the honor of being involved in the first interviews, and when she came to visit with us to see if this community would work, it was just a wonderful experience. Then I was involved in the rather interesting process of dealing with all the paperwork with immigration to get her here, which took a little while, but then she finally arrived, and it has been an amazing journey of friendship and joy to welcome her to our congregation. So again, thanks to everybody. Shabbat Shalom. And tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, there is a service and Torah study and brunch up at our community house that will be presided over by Rabbi Fuchs and Rabbi Margolis. So please join us if you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. And our beautiful final song is going to be on page 627 with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Boakem l'shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, friends. Thank you for being with us and join us for reception at the Liedenfeld House. Thank you.